When you have a 3D printer, it's not hard to go from one obsession to another obsession. And I'm telling you, I'm obsessed with dragons right now. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, June the 17th, 2024. And it's vlog number 364. So, moving right along with what I have been working on these days. Well, here's what my design wall looks like right now. I have two projects there, but I have a third project that I started yesterday, and I just found out about another project that's coming up on another channel that I've been asked to be part of, and I'm a boy who just can't say no, so I'm going to be doing that. I've got about 3 quilts hanging up in the Lucey room that need to be quilted. I need to clean out the Lucey room. I need to clean my house. I need servants. I've just come to the conclusion, I need servants. And don't anybody put in the comments, you've got Walter. Yeah, he's not a servant. So, anyways, this is what's on my design wall. Up in the top left corner, the blue things, that's an In the Hoop project that I've just started. It's a Halloween wall hanging. It's done with tiles, and tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter, I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. I will also talk in a little bit more detail about this project that I'm working on with all the blocks that you see here that are done in the more 1930s looking sort of style of fabrics. That's the Underground Railroad. And that's another project that I'm kind of following along with Stephanie of Stephanie Stitches with. So more about that tomorrow as well. And one project I don't have up here that you can't see, but I started that yesterday, and it's an In the Hoop tote bag. A beach bag actually, but you do it in the hoop, and again, that'll be something I'll talk a little bit more in detail for anybody who's interested in the finer details of in the hoop embroidering. I will talk about that, as I've said about everything else, tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. So those are my teasers for the Idiot Quilter this coming week. Okay, let's move right along and talk about a YouTube channel that I think this is something that is kind of commercially made. However, and I think they do employ a lot of AI in it, but nevertheless, it's kind of interesting. You probably have seen this before because it's all over the YouTube and it's been around for a long time. It's called Be Amazed, and here's what I'm talking about. This week's YouTube channel is called Be Amazed, and you probably have seen this many times before because it pops up a lot in your feed for YouTube. But it does have some very interesting things, and to say the least, it's entertaining and somewhat informative, although some of the things that they say I think you have to take with a grain of salt, depending on what the video is you're watching. It's called Fact Videos You'll Be Amazed By Every Day, and let's just take a look at their playlists for a sample of the kind of things they have. You had one job, that's kind of a funny one about the mistakes people make in their jobs, which are really stupid ones. People doing stupid things, strange wish products, tales of revenge, the power of time, designers who should go to hell for their ideas. That one I like because there's some really dumb things there. And there's all kinds of things here that just, if you're looking for something that's sort of mindless and just an amusing waste of time, then you might want to check out Be Amazed. So if you've never seen that channel before and you want to check it out, the link for it is in the show notes. There's also a link in the show notes for Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, our Wednesday get-together, all day of sewing, come and go as you please, and the links for that are in the show notes below as well. And there are links to all my friends' YouTube channels, as always, and there is a link to all my past week's videos, too. So get out your little calendar and start marking off the days you're going to be watching all of this, because it's a full week of entertainment, I guess. I'm starting to feel like like a programming director for like a streaming network or whatever, or the old days of television stations, that kind of thing. But anyways, it's part of my hobby and I enjoy doing it. Okay, well, let's take a look at the weather because I've heard a lot of people are having really hot weather down in the United States. Oh, let me hold that thought for just a second. There was another picture I wanted to show you on here as well of one of my projects that I did get finished this week. Well, finished as in the top is done. This is the scrappy maple leaf quilt. I have not yet decided if I like it or not. Again, more details tomorrow about that on the Idiot Quilter. Here's what I was talking about, however. This is looking outside from my Ring camera at about 10 to 7 in the morning. And yeah, it's been raining a little bit. I woke up to rain at about 5 o'clock this morning, heard it out there. And that's okay. We need the rain. Um, it doesn't upset me if it rains at night, like when I'm fast asleep. That's great because, not that I go outside a lot. I should do something about that, but I'm always in the house working on other projects and things like that. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's the way it is. And sometimes I think, you got to get out and do a walk. Walter tries to get out every day for a walk. That's part of his new health regime, and I should do the same. You notice I say the word I should. There's a lot of things I should. Like should have, could have, would have, but I don't. It just eats into my creative time. But anyways, yep, that's what it's looking like right now. I don't know it's going to clear up. The current temperature though is getting up there. It's 16 degrees and it looks like we have a high of 29 Celsius. That's hot. And there is an extreme heat warning. I just saw it come up on my watch about half an hour ago. So we will see what we see. I mean, with the Humidex, that will probably, I'm just looking here on my watch to see, it says it's 16 right now and it says it feels like 16. But let's just see what it says about humidity. Yeah, 86% humidity. So that's going to affect the temperature. So it may hit 29 this afternoon, but it may feel into the 30s. And I think several days this week it's supposed to be up into the 30s. So we'll see. I'm not going to complain about the heat though. I know lots of people complain about the heat. I don't mind it. Mind you, within reason. Okay. But right now, because we've had kind of a damp, coolish June, it would be nice to have a little bit of heat. I know people down in the southern United States don't feel that way, but such is life. It's weather. What can we do about it? Okay, so that takes me to what's pissing me off this week. Busybodies. These are the kind of people that have their nose in your business, and they're always very helpful with all kinds of advice or suggestions about what you should have done. It borderlines on criticism, sometimes negative criticism. In fact, I'm starting to believe out there in the world there's no such thing as constructive criticism. We use that term, but I mean, criticism is criticism, isn't it? And, I don't know anybody, whether it's been put in a constructive way or not, that when they get criticized or something they have done gets criticized, they feel a little bad. May not show it, but inside, they get you. Yeah, well, busybodies are those kind of people. So what I want to know is, why do people think you want their advice in the first place? Now, YouTube is a really great spot for that because, people with opinions are like, well, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, right? And for some reason on social media, people who are complete strangers to you feel that it is their duty to give you constructive criticism, to tell you how you should have done something, give you lots of advice on how you should run your life or whatever else, and all that kind of stuff. All in the guise that this is being helpful. They're being giving. No, they're not. They're sticking their nose in where it doesn't belong. Now, that's not to say that some advice or some information that comes from people like this is not useful. I mean, after all, how do we learn, right? We learn from other people. I may know something you don't know, you may know something I don't know. We'll share that information together and we'll both know everything there is to know. But there are those out there that feel it is their God-given duty to let you know what they know all the time. Part of being a busybody. And is that showing off? I think it is. I think those type of people have a really poor self-image and they want to be the center of attention, and that's how they get it. Yeah, I'm sounding negative about it, but let's face it, think about it. And if you're really honest with yourself, everybody knows one or two busybodies in their life. They always have a friend out there or someone they know who always has something to say about everything that comes up. They know everything. Nobody knows everything. Your logical mind tells you that. How do you handle these kind of people? Well, it depends on how close they are to you, what relationship they have with you. If they're a really close friend, you probably say nothing because you don't want to hurt their feelings. They're a friend. In your mind, you have made it up that they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart because they're a good friend and they feel that this is something that will help me out. Maybe, but they're still annoying. If they're an acquaintance, you might say something to them, especially if you're a moody person like I am, and you might just something will be triggered and you'll blow them away. Okay, yeah, that happens. But if they're an acquaintance, you probably say to yourself, well, do I really care? They're not my best friend. They're not that close. If it comes from a relative, well, this is kind of the in-between ground. It depends. If it's your mother, and depending your relationship with your mother or with your parents in general, you might be kind, or you have been trained since you were a little kid to believe mother knows best. Okay? I'll let you in a little secret. She doesn't always. She's just a human like everybody else. But mothers are mothers, right? If it's a sibling, well, you've heard of sibling rivalry. So, maybe your sibling is constantly trying to do one above you, and that could be a competition. It could be a friendly competition. But, are there friendly competitions? There's another term I hate. I hate constructive criticism and I hate friendly competition because constructive criticism is an oxymoron. Criticism is negative by its own nature, okay? So how can it be constructive? It's just the way our society tries to spin a positive turn on things that are actually negative. And the same thing goes with, what was I just saying? We've got constructive criticism and, oh yeah, friendly competition. Wait. Competition suggests, more than suggests, that someone has to come out to be the winner. So someone's going to be a loser. That's not a positive. So how can it be friendly if you're trying to beat the other person out? It's a competition. So I don't believe that there's really such a thing as friendly competition. No. Someone's going to get hurt because they're going to lose. So yeah, but that's what the nature is of our society. So you have these people out there that feel it is their God-given duty to make the world over in their image because they know exactly what the right thing is. They share this on social forums, and that's where it's dangerous because suddenly complete strangers are out there giving information, constructive criticism, friendly advice, all this kind of stuff out there. And some of us who maybe not as critical of thinkers or have a more positive view maybe of the world, believe everybody's good, are sucking in on this advice, and it could be completely wrong. One example, think during COVID, everything that was written on social media about COVID, about the vaccinations, about how you get it, how it was transmitted, blah, 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 blah. There was so much misinformation out there, you could not really tell from one day to the other what's true and what isn't true. And a lot of that information was coming from busybodies. They saw this article on the internet. They saw a YouTube video about this. They heard from their friend's brother's doctor who is retired, this and that and the other thing. The rumor mill. So, yeah, how do we know what advice we should be taking and what advice we shouldn't be taking? There's a real danger here that what they say, these people say, could end up being the opposite of helpful. They might put us in harm's way. I mean, okay, this is an extreme example, but Trump said during COVID, drink bleach. Or was it Lysol? One or the other. Anything. It was something that you shouldn't drink. It's because it's poison. And there were people who believed him. And that's the other thing about busybodies. It depends on what level their authority is at. In other words, if you're getting, people, not just the average person is a busybody. We have professionals out there that are busybodies too. Doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, whatever. The whole bit. I mean, we have to stand back a bit and look at all this stuff that comes our way and decide for ourselves, put it through our filter, and decide for ourselves what is valuable, what is worth my attention, and what should I dismiss. And I would say that probably 90% of the stuff we see in social media or we hear through the rumor mills or whatever, or the stuff that comes from our friends and family, is not quite right. So it makes it very difficult for us to choose. But the thing is this. What bothers me about busybodies, what pisses me off about them, is that they feel it's their God-given right to stick their nose in my business. Well, you stick it in my business, I'm going to chop it off. Yes, I do have a fiendish grin on my face because never mind what I see in my brain. But I think everybody knows that. So how do we handle the busybodies in our lives? Well, that's a difficult question. It depends on you. It depends on what kind of person you are. It depends on your characteristics, your traits, and things like that. Sometimes it isn't worth our effort to handle them at all. We just go, well, ain't that nice, and move on. Okay, or bless their soul. But if they get really annoying, and if you can't take any more, well, then you have to decide what action you take and what are the consequences of that action. Does this mean that I will hurt their feelings and they'll never want to talk to me again? That's not always a bad thing. Or do I just suck it up and just, like I said, ain't that nice? Anyways, busybodies. The world's full of them. Always has been. I guess now, though, we see a lot more of it because thanks to the wonderful world of the internet and social media. Okay, let's move on to new products. Okay, so I bought something here I'm going to talk about in just a second, as soon as I find my picture of it. So I bought a little mini tool chest. This is all the rage. Tomorrow on Idiot Quilter, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more detail because everybody in the quilting sewing community are buying these up. Of course, the ones they're buying up come in colors, and they're from Lowe's in the States. But here in Canada, we don't have Lowe's. We used to, but we don't anymore. But we have our good old faithful Crappy Tire, Canadian Tire, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. That's what we call it. It's a term of endearment, actually, Crappy Tire, for us Canadians. And I bought one of these. Now, it is not that big. It's only about 11 inches across. It has 2 drawers, and the top flips open, and you have another space to put things. It's cute. It's not that expensive, $29.99, unless you have Walter go out and get it for you, and he always has points at Canadian Tire, so he got $5 off that price. So that was happy. But anyways, I bought one of these, and you're going to say, why? I bought it to put some of the most frequently used tools I use when I'm doing 3D printing. And so it sits over with my 3D printers, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. And it is. Just don't expect to put a whole lot of stuff in there. And of course, it has multiple uses. So you may want it for, say, art supplies or something like that, or for your feet and for your sewing machine and needles supply or things like that. Embroidery thread, floss, whatever. There are a million different uses for this little thing. So it's not useless. But tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think this is on trend right now, why everybody is buying these. So that's going to be on tomorrow's Idiot Quilter. Okay, let's talk about the greenery we're growing around here. So here's one set of the grow lights. In fact, this is the only grow lights we have anything on or under right at the moment. So two of those are lettuce. We did have some onions growing there, but I noticed Walter removed them from that. He took them out to the workshop to that set of grow lights because they were getting kind of tall, and he thought it'd be better there. This other leafy thing that's growing though, that's radishes, and it's in a bit of an experiment to see what will happen. We have some radishes growing outside as well. And speaking of outside, yes, I know these all look a little weak. They're perking up. They got a little too wet, I think. And that's why we've got a little bit of fungus among us here, too. Because of the way the system works, it soaks up the water from this tray underneath, and it may have had a little bit too much. So, yeah, we're working with it. But here's outside, and outside's looking really nice. Now, Walter's been moving plants around a little bit here. He bought a flower, and he has that there. And don't ask me what that flower is. I couldn't tell you. It's very pretty though when it gets all out in bloom and that, and it pretty much blooms, I think, most of the summer. Anyways, our lettuce. We have different varieties. It's coming up very nicely. This pot over here where everything looks like half dead, and hopefully it's not, I think that's transplanted lettuce, or he may have started that from seeds. So that will come on, and I think the same up here in this pot, the long pot. So there's a close-up of that flower, and it is a very pretty flower, and it does very, very well on the deck because in the afternoon it gets extremely hot out there. It's a western exposure, and it gets a lot of sun. Moving down, so you can see our rows of things here coming along. We've got tomatoes, of course. They're doing well. We've actually got little tomatoes already, and our peppers are coming fantastically this year. Now, last year we planted seeds, and that took forever. So this year Walter bought plants, and yeah, we're going to have peppers much sooner than we did last year. Here's some tomatoes coming on as well. This is our cucumber. Now, we're doing a little experiment here. Cucumbers usually spread out on a vine close to the ground. We're growing this one vertically. I have no idea what's going to happen. My theory is that once we get a cucumber, if we get any cucumbers on it, don't expect too many. There are flowers, so when you have flowers, you know you want them to flower because that's when you'll get the whatever's going to grow on it. We'll see what happens, but you know, cucumbers are heavy, so we may have to support them. I don't know. We don't know. This is a complete and utter experiment. This is our basil, and we're having a little problem. We've got a blight, and we're not sure what's causing that. We're going to do a little research to see if there's something we can get to put on it. We can start basil down under the grow lights, and we should. It does very well under the grow lights as well. And it's a nice plant. Like, basil looks nice, but you really don't want to use the leaves of basil that have blight on them. So a little bit more research there as well. Onions are coming up nicely. Walter started these in the house, and he put them out here, and I think he did, or maybe he started them right outside. They're from like onion bulbs, right? So they come along very nicely. And we have more right here. And this empty pot, I don't know if I have a picture. Nope, I don't. We have chives. And our chives come up every year. We don't have to plant any more chives. Um, and you've seen previous pictures with them with their purple flowers. They come up every year. They're a perennial and they grow like a weed. They probably are a weed. I don't know. Do we need that many chives that you saw in past pictures? No. But Walter felt that they were root bound, so he dug them all up and transplanted them. So whether they'll survive or not, we'll see. But I think they probably will because they sit out in their pot all winter long, you know, in sub-zero weather in the winter, and every spring they come right back up. They're the first thing out there on the deck popping up. So I think they probably will survive. And if they don't, it's not a great loss. The only thing is that's kind of interesting is when Walter was transplanting it, he found the little, stake that has the name of whatever plant it is that you're planting, or when you buy plants, at the nursery, they're there. He found that in the soil. It was buried in there, and it had a year on it when we first planted them, 2013. Our chive plant is 11 years old. Now that tells you something about the longevity of and the hardiness of that kind of plant, because like I said, it's out there all year round. Now it's not growing in the wintertime, but it's there, frozen over, and it survives. So yeah, in one way it would be a shame if we killed it just because of its longevity. So anyways, that's our garden. Everything's looking nice. It'll get nicer looking. And I'm looking very much forward to when we can start harvesting a few things off of everything, especially the lettuce. The lettuce is fantastic. Whether you grow it under lights or outdoors, it's totally different than the stuff you buy in the grocery store. And you know that it's organic because we don't put anything on it. Yeah, like as I worry about that, not. But, it's a thing for everybody these days. Okay, so that is how our garden grows. Okay, so let's then turn our attention to the 3D corner. Lots to tell you here. Okay, I've named this series called Can I Print This Effin' Thing? And I have been printing like a fiend, all kinds of things. So I've got two things to show you, and I've made videos of both. The first video, I'm going to talk about practical prints, as in watering cans and funnels, because you can always use a watering can and you can always use a funnel. So this week on Can That Effin' Thing Be Printed on the 3D printer, I want to talk about some very useful practical prints that everybody needs all the time. And that's things like watering cans and funnels. So I'll just show you here. Here are some watering cans that I have printed before. You have to be careful when you print watering cans or anything that's going to hold liquid, because although they may look very solid, sometimes they leak. So for example, this one, I thought it was a nice shape, and I wanted one that I thought would, wouldn't drip back. In fact, this one was labeled as no drip back because of the design of the spout. And I thought it was kind of a slick looking little print. Yeah, then I put water in it and it leaked. Now you can't see any visible holes, but the walls may be too thin or the bottom might be too thin, and that's why it leaks. Now you can do something about that if that's a problem. What you could do is set your settings so that you make thicker walls or a thicker bottom, and that might solve the issue. I didn't bother to do that. Instead, I ended up printing this one because I thought it was even more stylish. And I do like the spout on this one. This is the one I use for watering my philodendrons I have upstairs in my kitchen, and it works very well and it doesn't leak. This one I have been using for quite a while to, actually this is the one I used to use to water my philodendrons, but you can see the design of the spout. The water kind of drips underneath that, so it isn't so good. But I'm using that now to fill up the reservoir on my steam iron. So that works okay for that. So those two are pretty much winners, with the exception of this one dripping back, but that only happens with the philodendrons. I don't have that problem with filling up my iron because I have a funnel. And everybody needs a funnel at some point in time. And I wanted one that was a little bit bigger. I had one. I had a commercially bought one that was smaller than this that actually I still use when I am filling up the reservoir on my iron. This one's a little bigger, but when I have to pour water into a bigger jug, which I often have to do, the little one just takes too long. So I created this funnel. And this was one that came from Thingiverse, and you see it's got a little handle on the side with a hole in it, so if you want to hang it up or anything. And this works dandy. It's great. So, you know, we always need funnels for things. We always need things to hold liquids. I wouldn't recommend any of these prints for food or for anything you're going to consume, because I still don't know what the properties of PLA are when it comes to food grade safety. So rather err on the side of safety than take my chances with that. But if you're going to water plants, or you need a funnel or a watering can for something else, these prints are great. And there are many, many designs to choose from as well. Now, the other thing that I was going to hold back before I show you this, but I've just been having way too much fun with this, and so I've got to show you now. And that's my dragons. So I have a new obsession with my 3D printer, and it's printing these guys. This is a collection of dragons, and I'm experimenting with different types of filaments and the settings on my printers, but so far I've been really pleased with the results. So let's take a little closer look. This one is done with some of my usual PLA, and it's the stuff I buy that's two-tone, so when the light hits it, it's a certain way, and I'm knocking my dragon all over the place, get that. See, it changes color, purple to blue. Don't know if that's showing up in the camera very well, but I think that's really cool. But the thing that's really interesting about these dragons is that they are completely articulated, and this was all done as a print in place. And print in place means there's no assembly required. It comes off exactly as you see it right now, with a little bit of pulling off some bottom brims, they're called, which is just some plastic that makes it adhere to the build plate a little better. But it pulls right off, and everything, well, it has been so well engineered that everything just moves, which fascinates me in itself there. And of course, these wings are, you know, posable, do whatever you want with them, that kind of thing. So I was impressed when this one printed out. But then I thought, well, let's try it in some other filament that I've never used before. And that's this rainbowy kind of filament. And this one is, you'll notice, not as shiny as that. These two are matte finish. And I'm really liking how these turned out as well. This one is a slightly different model. This one focuses more on the tail than the other ones, a little bit more intricate, but still has the wings that, you know, fold up or down, do whatever they want. And I've got him mounted on, and you can get these little, this one he doesn't mount on so well because that's not really the right size. But if you're going to put them on display, you can create these little mounts. I think this one's supposed to be jewels. This was sort of a prototype when I printed it. I want to see what it looked like when it printed out, and I just printed it in one color. I think I would print it in a different color, and I think I'd make it bigger. So yeah, and here's another design. This one, you'll notice, has these horns on the front of it. Now those, I did print this one on my KE, my Creality KE printer, and it can handle these more subtle intricacies than my other ones. The other ones, though, don't do a bad job, and I'm still experimenting with settings on those to see if I can get a really good print from them. But nevertheless, this is really good. This is a really good print. And then they have these little mini ones. And the idea of these little mini ones is, it has a hole in the nose. You can put a ring through it and use it as a keychain or something else. as well. So I am having a ball making these. If you're interested in where to get these models, these were not free. I did have to pay for these models, but it's not very expensive. They come from a site called 3D Cults. Just do a search for dragons. You will find these. I think this one is called the Cinder World or something like that dragon, and one of these is called the Diamond Dragon, and the Horn Dragon or something like that. And I think this is the Baby Dragon or Grass Dragon. They have different names, but they're not expensive. I think this one, the large one, cost me about $5 Canadian, which is pretty good considering how intricate these models are. So yeah, you know, if you're into dragons, or you just want to really put your printer to a test to see how well it can handle something like this, then I would suggest it's worth investing in one of these and trying it out. Those are fun. They're fantastic. And they print really well on my latest printer, my Creality KE. And I love that printer. In fact, I bought another one. I haven't got it yet. I ordered it yesterday. So I imagine it'll arrive sometime this week. And Walter said to me, "And where are you going to put it?" I says, "I'll make room." I think I can get it in. I mean, I was thinking of replacing my oldest printer with the newest printer when it comes. But the oldest printer, the thing I don't like about it is I have to level it manually, whereas all my other printers have automatic leveling systems on them. And it is a pain in the, butt to do that. However, it works. So I'm going to try to do a little rearranging of my print mill down here, and I think I can get the new one in as well. It's going to be a little tighter squeeze between printers, but I think I can do it. And then I have 5 3D printers. Don't ask me why. I'm obsessive like that. My motto's always been when I was a teacher, if you can get one, that's great. If you can get 2, even better. If you can get a class set, excellent. So yeah, 5 printers coming. So I'll keep you up to date on my adventures with the new one. It is the same. It is the same as my newest one that's here as well. And I am loving that printer. I really am. In some ways, I would like to replace all of my printers with that one, but let's not get carried away. Okay, so that takes me to Blasts from the Past. This is an old video clip, and this is of my studio, this room, when I was a paper crafter. It shows you what it looked like way back then, before it was my sewing room, and how I changed it and altered it. This room, by the way, has always been my office slash craft room slash sewing room slash whatever, my domain down in here. And it's gone through transformations over the years, but I thought you would be interested in seeing this one from, I think this video was made in about 2013. So from about 10, 11 years ago. Hi again. Someone requested that I do a little virtual tour of my studio, so I thought, well, what the heck, I could do that. Just to let you have some background information about myself, I was a high school English teacher for about 31 years, and I recently retired. I haven't been quite retired a year yet, and since about 2000, 2001, I got into scrapbooking. Now, I've always been interested in art and paper arts especially, but I never really had any talent for art. At least that's what I was told by my grade 8 art teacher, who said my stuff just stunk and that I should not pursue art in high school. Which really, now having been an English teacher for 31 years, I now see the effect that a teacher can have on a student, because those words told me that I could not do art. And in those days I had a very limited perspective as to what art really is. And once I discovered scrapbooking, well, that opened up a whole new world of creativity for me. And I tend to be a very creative person, and I like to play around with techniques. And, well, it'll probably never get in a museum, but as long as I'm having fun and it's keeping me interested in life, then what the heck, I'm going to do it. So here we are. This is my studio. Now, right up front, this is sort of command central for me. You are going to see in this tour that I have quite a few computers. That's a whole topic on its own because I love computer technology. From here is where I do everything. My email, my YouTube videos, the plans for whatever next creative activity I'm going to be into. If the power goes out, I'm lost. Simple as that, because I need my computer system. So these are my principal computers, and as we move a little bit around the peripheral part of my room, you'll notice that there's another computer over there, and lo and behold, here is one of my two Cricut machines. This one is the big machine, the one that will do 12 by 12 paper, etc. I haven't used this one as much as I use my mini one, which you'll see in a minute, but it's hooked into my computer system as well. And when I do bigger projects, I can use this. I love my Cricut machines. This happens to be my computer that runs my music system in my home and my video system. This is all attached wirelessly to the television sets in and around the house, and I can simply tune into this when I want to watch a movie or I want to play my music anywhere in the house. Have a photocopier machine, and then here are some of my cutting machines. This one is my pride and joy. This is my industrial strength guillotine. This one will cut through 400 pieces of paper in one fell swoop. This thing is a weapon. And then, of course, the standard little larger guillotine as well. I have a lot of paper cutters, as you're going to see. And just spinning around here, another computer, my laminating machine. This is great. I've had this for many, many years. It's the thing that does the heat plastic on anything you run through it. I love it. I've used it for more than just paper. It's amazing. All the different things that you can actually put through a laminator that you might not have thought of. For example, you remember how we as kids used to pick up colored leaves and wax them, put them between two sheets of wax paper and iron them down? Well, guess what? You can use the same technique with your laminator. Maybe I'll do a little video on that someday, because it can make some really neat embellishments that'll last forever. Another computer, and we swing around, and books and things like that. Now, over on this side, I have my bookcase, as you can see, and a lot of those 12 by 12 plastic cases which hold my embellishments and chipboard. I can get a little closer, you can see. I have everything labeled. Okay, I know, anal retentive, that kind of thing. But I found when I reorganized this whole room, which before was more or less my teaching stuff, if I didn't label it, I wasn't going to find it. So I labeled everything. Another machine I love, my label making machine. This is just a way that I hold some decorative papers. These are the kind of papers that are handmade papers or Japanese style types of papers. I also create my own hardcover books, and these often are used for the inside cover pages for that. Now, my bookshelf. Okay. I also do genealogy. So on this shelf are all kinds of books on genealogy. On the next shelf are my 8.5 by 11 cardstock supply, which I've organized by colors. And yes, even though you can see the color, I labeled them. Told you. I'm a little anal retentive. Down here are books about scrapbooking, about bookbinding, bookmaking, album making, that kind of thing. The same with the next shelf down. And then at the very bottom, and I have to get down on my knees to take this, are all of my scrapbook albums. And I have quite a few of them. When I first started scrapbooking, I did it in the traditional method. And I then moved into digital. I also did them on a variety of things, you know, family, my cat, you know, that kind of stuff. Now I pretty much limit my scrapbooking to digital scrapbooking, and I usually do it on my travels, and I travel quite a bit. I've been to many places around the world. I've been to China, I've been all through Europe, you name it, Scandinavian countries, Russia, and I'm still going strong on that. It's one of my other hobbies, is traveling. I love it. So this, in this area, this started out as my first work area when I first got into scrapbooking. So I bought this table, cheap kitchen table actually, with drop leaves in it, from IKEA. And I set it up as the table I work on. It's not my principal site anymore. Now it's more or less a secondary area for holding things while I'm working on projects. I have my rubber stamps, my ink pads, all that kind of stuff, my various tools, wire, fibers, whatnot. These little jars hold brads and little mini. So this has a mini pen holder and bits and pieces of different things all around. Now, in this little cutout that's here, these are more books about scrapbooking, magazines, all that kind of thing. Everything is organized in these magazine holders with what type of magazine they hold. Label maker's really a good thing to have. And of course my Cuttlebug and my iron and some other, my Xyrons, my smaller ones, and just more storage space down here. Well, once I grew out of that table I just showed you, I bought myself a drafting table. Now, this drafting table used to be set up in the more conventional style, you know how the tabletop is tilted, and it used to sit in this corner, but I needed more space, and the tilting it wasn't really working for me, so I've made it more into just a standard desk. And on this, you can see I've got my Adirondack paint dabbers, my Tim Holtz stains, my pencil crayons, brushes, all kinds of bric-a-brac, my Sizzix, not Sizzix, what do they call them? Stickles, that's the word for it. My stickles are all here, my alcohol inks and re-inkers, and then another little cabinet that holds tags and all kinds of other equipment and material. Over to this side, you'll see, oh, and I didn't point it out in the other part, but I have what I call my inspiration boards, which are just bulletin boards stuck up, and when I make something or get an idea about what I want to do, I'll stick a sample of it up here on the board for future reference. I have another one of these. We'll just pan around the room over here, and there's another one does a similar thing. So back over here, now we're getting into more of the my fabric type papers, backings. Again, that's more for the bookbinding kind of things that I do. And my ribbons and embellishments, all kinds of things in here. My templates, oh, you name it. I've got all that stuff. Again, everything is labeled. And just my ribbon holder here is simply a threaded rod through some eye bolts underneath this cupboard, and you just put them on. And when I want to add one or take one off when it's empty, I just unscrew this nut on the end. There you get an under view of it. Slide out the rod, slide out the empty cartridge, put in a new ribbon, spool, whatever, and away we go. This has worked out pretty well, and it's cheap. It only cost me about like $5 to make, so that's a good thing. Now, you've seen in a previous video my newest installation, and on my cupboards that I installed in this room, I added, just the other day, I put up these little, they're supposed to be mail and key holder. Just screw nailed them in, and they hold my various albums that I've made. And if you take a look for that video, it's a little bit more detailed about how I went about putting this together. It's really simple and very inexpensive. Now you'll notice my printer station here. I have 3 printers, and you might wonder why. Well, like my computers, I like printers. But this, and it's working right now because it's printing out one of my scrapbook pages from a recent trip to New York City. This is my wide format printer. This one will print a 13 by 19 inch sheet of paper, and that's how I do all my scrapbooks. They're all done digitally. I use a program on my computer called Memory Mixer, and of course I use Photoshop Elements 11, and that's how I create my pages, and this printer prints them out. It's a little bit more expensive than conventional printing, but the results are well worth it because of the high quality reproduction that you get. This is my main printer. It's a color printer, scanner, all in one kind of thing, fax machine. I use this quite a bit. And then this is a laser printer for when I don't need color, because color can be expensive. I use this small laser printer for just simple black and white text for most things. Below, if I go below, and you notice these cupboards, counters that I had. These counters, actually, when we moved into this house,
I simply bought a long slab of countertop and went to IKEA and bought these faux wood filing cabinets. They have wheels, but I removed the wheels from them, and they're simply the cabinets that hold up this countertop. Same over on the far side of the room. And underneath there was lots of space to add these large drawer storage bins. And again, they're all labeled with whatever's in them. And very similar over on the far side too. You can see them all laid out there as well. Last but not least is my island. This is my central work area. The island is basically 2 IKEA kitchen islands put together, side by side. They had lots of storage space underneath them, as you can see. And I have things in baskets, and all the baskets are labeled. My adhesives, my glitter mists, all that kind of stuff. My mixed media gels, things like that. And on the end, I have another cutting board. I have another little shelf I picked up somewhere that I screw nailed in there to put miscellaneous items. I bought one of those reflections, I believe it is, carousels. And they hold most of the equipment that I use most immediately at times. And this little holder I created. All I did was I took the little cans that, what do they call it, tomato paste come in, washed them out well, wrapped them in scrapbook paper, and then I simply glued them together at different heights with a glue gun. And they hold all my pen collections in there. And it looks kind of neat, I think. I do have 2 outlights, whatever they call them. I love those because they give you more of the natural light effect. And then my label maker, yes, I told you, I have one. I actually have several of them. And this is my Cricut, my small one, my mini Cricut. This is the one I use the most. It's hooked up to another computer over here. Just like, there we go. And you may have seen this in my laminating video. And this is where I do most of my creating right here. I love this height because I can stand. I don't like sitting down when I'm doing scrapbooking or when I'm doing my albums and things like that. So that's the end of the tour. I hope you liked it. Maybe you got some ideas for organizing your space, and I'm always looking for ideas to organize because, every now and then you need to do a purge because things start to pile up. So that's it for now. Bye-bye.
So that takes me to events in the past week. Well, we had a pop-up sew day on Saturday. It was great. We had lots of fun. I bought things. Other people bought things. That's what always happens on pop-up sew days. We enable each other. But it was a great time. And I am tentatively planning to have one at the end of this month as well. That would be 2 in June. You're welcome. It may be on Saturday, June the 29th. I say maybe because there's a couple of factors there. I'm pretty sure it probably will be then, but stay tuned. Next week for sure I will send out information about that if I'm having it or not. So you'll have my decision. Probably have my decision come on Stephen and Walter Live this Sunday. The reason I'm hesitating is there is a possibility that Walter has an in-person sew day with his group on that day as well. And I like to have a pop-up sew day when he has one of those because he goes off to that. I'm here all by my lonesome and I want friends and company to do things with. So he thinks pretty much that's when it's going to be. So if that happens, then it will have a sew day. Now, if it doesn't happen, probably still have a sew day unless something else comes up. Now, that is the long weekend for us in Canada, the July 1st weekend. But when you're retired, every weekend's a long weekend. And we don't usually do anything too terribly exciting. Now, there is an event in a town about 45 minutes to the east of us they have every year, and we have gone to that. It's sort of a craft market. But as I said on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday when I was discussing this, it's got a lot of junk in it. Well, okay. It's not really junk. It's what, local artisans have made. An awful lot of jewelry. I am not interested in jewelry. Some art pieces, well, I'm interested in art, but I'm not going to buy anything. So, but if it's a nice day, it's kind of nice to go there. But we can go on the Sunday or, well, or the Monday. The Monday's the long weekend. So, we'll see. But, anyways, tentatively, Pop Up So Day, June 29th. Stay tuned for my final decision on that. Um, yeah, and I think that's about it for this week. So tune into the Idiot Quilter tomorrow. I'm going to talk about my projects in much more detail and about the problems I have with them. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that little trendy mini toolbox as well, and my thoughts on why it's selling so well, and other things as well. There's always other things on the Idiot Quilter. Okay, have a great week. We'll see you later. Bye for now.